Well, hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. And finally, after a 2 weeks break nearly, we finally have this week's chapter of One Piece 826 and the late chapter 825 to review today for us. And what chapters those are? A bunch of new informations, a bunch of new things for us to theorize on about. At least I am already mind blown with the amount of things I have to consider. But these chapters were very, very cool. And without further ado, let us begin with 825, the WE Times comic strip. When I read the title of this chapter, I was like, wait, what? WE Times comic strip? It didn't make sense, of course. I just had read the title, so of course it wouldn't make any sense. But going on along the chapter, we get to see what this WE Times is and what the comic strip is referring to. Sorry about that. The cover of the chapter, we have the old guys from White Area looking, in their own words, stylish. They are indeed quite dandy looking, but stylish isn't a word I would use. I don't know about you, but you know, it's the From the Decks of the World cover story, so they have to cover everything, everyone that knows the Straw Hats, even if it's just one of the Straw Hats. So it's not that great of a cover, but it's a cool cover, as are all the covers made by Oda. The chapter begins in Big Mom's ship with Vito telling Sanji about a story, about a comic strip that goes on the WE Times, which is the World Economic Times. It apparently is in a new newspaper in the world of One Piece. Up until now, we thought that unless the newspaper that the newscoast deliver is the WE Times, which it was never called that. It's just the newspaper for us. There isn't really a name. It's not the Daily News or the Cold News, or it doesn't have a name. It's a newspaper, so it could be the same newspaper. There isn't really a way for us to know right now if there's only one newspaper for the whole world of One Piece, or if there's one made by journalists, and that's the newsco. That's the one that the newscos deliver. And then there's the WE Times, which is more like a government propaganda, which, based on Vito's story, or Vito telling what is the comic strip about, it could actually be something like that, something made more by the government, with other news on it, more important news, so to say. And so one column is this story. And what is this story about? It's about a hero who can walk on the waters of the ocean, Sora, and a transforming robot and this pet seagull. Now, many people have been thinking over the past few days, ever since this chapter was released, that these heroes could be a representation of today's Sengoku and Garp and some other marine hero. Some people actually thought that Sora could be in some way, shape or form Garp, and the pet seagull, I don't know, could be the representation of Sengoku. It is a very stretched out theory, but it is out there. I've seen it somewhere. I personally do not agree with it. I would be more inclined to think as these three, Sora, the seagull, and the transforming robot, to see them as sort of, if not Vegapunk himself, like, imagine if Sora could be Vegapunk, but I believe that all of them, especially the robot, I believe that they all have some sort of connection to Vegapunk. We know that Vegapunk is the most brilliant scientists in the world. Therefore, allowing someone from the Marines to walk on water, taking in consideration what we will discover in the next chapter, could be easily done by him. And so that's why I think, because for someone to walk in water, it looked weird when Vito said it like this, but as I said, after the next chapter it makes a lot more sense. And so I think that these three heroes, this triad, has actually something to do with Vegapunk. And these three heroes, they were always, in that comic strip, they were always fighting against the armies of Germa 66. And a little interesting detail that I noticed when I read the chapter just before starting recording, if you see the two members of Germa 66, one of them has a 1 in his cloak and the other one has a 2 on his cloak. And they are the ones on the front of all the others. That big guy in between them could be their father, could be the father of Sanji and all of his brothers and sister. Again, going ahead of myself a little bit. But as again, taking into consideration the next chapter, we have a 0, we see here a 1 and a 2, we have Sanji, which is number 3, and we have number 4 in the next chapter. So we have now the 5 children of the Van Smoke family. We do not know if there's any more, or we don't know what their status is, but I believe that we will get to know it very, very soon. And Vito goes on about how he was always rooting for Germa, and how he believes that this story is nothing more than a way for the government to brainwash as in sort of a not really brainwash, but enhancing the feats of the marine heroes. And that's why some people believe that these comics are a representation of Garp and Sengoku's actions, because it's the way for the government to, well, we have heroes that fight against the mean armies of Germa 66. They are these fantastical heroes, but they are based on some of our own heroes. It has a little bit of sense in this theory, but I think it's way too stretched out to even be considered. But it's a theory, and therefore it is to be treated as such. Sanji doesn't care about what Vito is talking about. He left his family in a very, very young age, and he doesn't even care about them. He goes on to his room, a very interesting detail. The door speaks. It appears that everything in Big Mom's ship, including the ship, speaks. Is it fruit of a devil fruit? Is the whole ship a devil fruit? It is just... Could the ship be some sort of robot with a conscience, an AI, something like that? I doubt it. But then again, the possibility of a devil fruit is also not applicable, because if so, the ship couldn't go on water unless there's some kind of treatment that allows the ship to be protected on water and not getting directly touched. I don't know if coating allows that. Maybe coating the ship, if a ship had a devil fruit, maybe coating the ship would allow it to stay protected from water and then allow him to navigate in water. But I don't know. I want to think that the possibility of a devil fruit should not be considered here. But it is weird how the door on the ship can speak. But probably it's just something that will or maybe will not be explained in the nearby future. We arrive at Sanji's room where Caesar is there locked up, nothing new there. And we get to know yet another member of the Fire Tank Pirates, Guido, one of the killers, all of them are killers because they're from the Mafia, but his name is Goatee, and he is once again inspired in a real life mafioso. Just like Vito, just like Just like Capone, it appears that all of the big members of the Pirate Tank Pirates are inspired by real life mafiosos, which is pretty awesome and pretty nice indeed. And this guy Guido already wants to have a go with Sanji, but a very interesting character appears, and she's no one else than supposedly one of Charlotte's Lillian's daughters, one of Big Mom's daughters, and I would dare to say that she's Lola's twin sister. Why I say this, I don't know. I'm joking, because they look exactly alike, and in fact, when the spoilers start to arise on the internet, many people believed at first that this girl was actually Lola. But after a little bit of talks and research, it actually has been not decided, but it has actually been seen that she's not Lola, because last time we saw Lola, she was in Water 7. And if she was indeed Lola, she would have a different kind of reaction towards Sanji than this girl had. And she seems to be like a member of the Fire Tank Pirates, because she has some sort of control over Guido and even Vito. So, is she like the... Because if you think about it, Sanji is going to marry someone to unite the Van Smokes and the Charlotte family. Could the same have happened here as to unite the Charlotte family and the Fire Tank Pirates? Not necessarily a marriage, but maybe, well, you have my daughter here. She will go on your crew, and she will look for your crew, and she will be some sort of boss in your crew. You'll remain the captain, but she will have a higher standing on your crew. And those are my terms for you to say my ally. It could be, it could not be, but probably is, because she seems to hold a very high position, and she's able to do a lot of things to the members of the Fire Tank Pirates. And Sanji recognizes her. He believes that she looks similar to someone, but he doesn't say who that someone is. But we all know it's Lola. The action swifts back to the Sunny, where they are in a hot sea, apparently. I find it weird how a single spot, well, not a single spot, but an area on the ocean can be hot while the other is not. But it's the new world, it's the One Piece world, and my god, is it weird, is it a strange world indeed. And the guys are all just nearly dying of dehydration. They're trying to fish, but they're dying of dehydration. The other ones, Nami, Carrot, and Beckham's, are in the shade, but not even the shade saves them. And it goes on, and suddenly Luffy's line baits, and he fishes a fish. Well, redundant, way me. But apparently it is not that good of a fish, even though it can be cooked. His skin is poisonous as hell. And what's the first thing that Luffy eats? Exactly, he eats the skin, and he gets very, very bad. In fact, if it weren't for his resistance, he could have died. Luffy's poison resistance is coming to debate very, very, very often. His poison resistance showed up in Punk Hazard when he fought against She's a Clown. Now again, his poison resistance is coming up. Yes, I know it's a sort of a big deal, because when he fought against Magellan, he managed to attain all these defenses against certain kinds of poison. But why would it be a recurring theme if it was just a one-time thing? Unless, of course, there's always the possibility. People always say that Luffy will one day return to Impel Down. I myself would love to see him return to Impel Down. There is not really a reason for him to go back there. Well, there's Bone Clay there, but He doesn't know that Bonkley is alive. The only way for him to go back there is for him to discover that Bonkley was alive. But that's not the point here. But taking the next chapter in consideration again, I cannot wait to get there. I believe that his poison resistance will once again be of extremely use against a certain someone if it gets to a fight. But we will get there soon enough. And meanwhile, they arrive at Big Mom's territory, where it starts to snow. The characteristic, the characteristic cotton candy snow, which apparently comes from something called saccharine clouds. Saccharine, I believe it may come from saccharoses, which is a type of sugar. Not a type of sugar, but it's an amino acid, I believe. I probably said something really, really stupid right now. Forgive me. Don't take note of what I said. Saccharoses, go look it up. You'll know what it is. If you're from science, if you have science classes, you probably know what saccharoses is already. And we discover something. We discover how the ships on Big Mom's territory are detected, and they are by sea slugs. Now, something that I've been thinking yesterday when I read the chapter, how are these slugs controlled? I mean, okay, they are slugs that are doing something for Big Mom. And how did they come to do that? Does Big Mom have a fishman on her crew? And so he's the one that controls those slugs. Is there someone with a slug fruit that's able to control the slugs? That's a stupid idea. But third idea is that there's someone with a telepathy devil fruit. But the problem with the telepathy devil fruit is that probably the telepathic waves wouldn't be able to go underwater because it's an effect from a devil fruit, and devil fruit effects don't work on water. So I don't know, maybe they are just wild slugs that go around there, and Big Mom happened to know about them and sat on that area and said, when these guys detect something, I'll know, so I'll stay here. That's probably the most plausible reason. And then, out of nowhere, what was first thought to be a scout ship from the Big Mom pirates is nothing more than a ship from Germa 66. And on deck is someone very, very similar to Sanji, but it is not Sanji, as we found out in chapter 8, 2, 6, 0, and 4. Speaking of the cover page for this chapter, I thought it was a ridiculous cover page. I mean, Mihawk with a straw hat eating an onigiri and planting cabbages. The world's strongest swordsman, and I dare say now second most powerful member of the Shichibukai, the first being Edward Weevil. Well, yeah, second strongest member of the Shichibukai, reduced to eating onigiri, planting cabbages, wearing a straw hat. And apparently Perona has gone back there as well. Last time we saw her, it was in the previous From the Decks of the World cover, where she was back in Thriller Bark, I believe, where she found out her teddy bear again. So apparently in the meantime she managed to go back to the Shikiaru Kingdom. Now the thing is, how have they taught the human drills to farm? Because if you remember, the human drills are monkeys, are baboons that learn from humans and imitate humans. So who have they seen farming to learn how to farm? Did Mihawk just one day get, okay guys, no more fighting? He puts the pencil on his back. we're gonna farm me some cabbages today, mate. And he just start like plowing the ground, and all of them just follow him. I with this cover page, I'm up for anything with this guy. Next time we see Mihawk, he'll have like a piece of straw in his mouth, and he'll appear like a farm boy, and you know, with a pencil instead of a sword. I don't know. I thought this cover was cool, but at the same time, it was ridiculous given the character it is. But starting the chapter, we see the Germa 66 ship in its full glory, and let me tell you, it's a very cool ship. I mean, they have a ship on top of a giant snail. What appears to be a giant Dendenmushi, they have a ship. It's not. It doesn't even appear to be a ship. It appears to be a fortress, more likely. And it makes sense given a statement they make in this chapter that the Germa 66 is a family that has no place to call a home. So it would make sense that their ship actually looks like a castle, a fortress, some sort of home. And it's very cool. It has sort of a castle tower on it with a platform, and then the snail itself, which apparently is the ship. It's a very cool ship, and it's a big ship. I mean, it's a matter of perspective, but the Sunny it reaches about the same height as the snail's mouth, if you notice. So the ship from Germa 66 is a very big ship, and apparently they were actually looking for the ship where Sanji was being brought, but they ended up getting lost, so they didn't match with Sanji. Even though everyone thinks he's Sanji, he's not Sanji, and we finally get to know our first member of the Van Smoke family, Sanji's younger brother, Van Smoke, Yonji. So the theory that the names of Sanji's brothers would have the same team as him comes through with his younger brother called the Winch Green Van Smoke Sanji. So now that I think about it, all of them, even Sanji, appear to have some sort of connection with a collar and something that might have to do with his powers. We have Sanji, which is called the Black Leg, and that is a connotation with his pants that are almost always black, and the fact that he fights with his legs. We have Reiji, which will appear further in the chapter. Reiji Van Smoke Reiji, which is Sanji's older sister. She's the oldest Van Smoke, and she's called the Poison Pink. Pink, I don't know why, because the colors haven't yet been released. And poison, because apparently she has some sort of power related to poison. Now, for Yonji, Winch Green, I don't actually know what winch means. I'm sorry about that. I should have gone and searched that, but I will right after the chapter, and maybe I'll make an annotation on the video on that. But probably, I don't know. Could it be those gauntlets you wear, these gloves he wears? I don't know, maybe it's something he uses in battle, and maybe he has some sort of green collar, but we can't know that. So we'll have to wait for him to appear in the anime, which I hope it comes quickly, because the Zou arc and this arc in the anime will look pretty awesome. New characters, new voices. I mean, it's gonna be awesome. I just want Retro's arc to end. I'm sick of it in the anime, so I just want it to end. And it's probably still gonna take 2 more months or so, 1.5 most likely, tops 2 months, and then we'll probably have a month of filler, but who knows. And again, another theory that gets confirmed. Yes, Van Smoke Yonji is a pervert just like his brother, because he looks Tsunami and he's like, oh my god, a babe, I'm in love. But he quickly turns around and says that they should leave. But the others keep asking for the antidote. Luffy's condition is getting worse and worse by the second. And Yonji just goes on, no, I'm not gonna help you. Do I look like the kind of guy who helps people on a whim? No. If you want the antidote, come and get it. And they're all getting, well, not all, but Pedro is already getting ready for a fight. And then she appears, kicking her brother, but he manages to defend, but still, he goes in the water. He goes to the drain. And she appears, Miss Van Smoke Reiju, the Poison Pink, the eldest of the Van Smoke children. She is a hottie. What can we say? Maybe they are all perverts because of her older sister. Incest coming on? Game of Thrones, anyone? Lannister sort of feeling? No? Anyway, let us hope that it's not the case. Because if it is the Lannister case, then it will not end well for them. And out of the blue, Reiju comes, not Reiju, Yonji comes back from the sea in a very stylish manner. He's floating in the air. Now, I've been thinking about this for a while. You remember in the last chapter where they talked about the hero that could float on, that could walk on the sea. I believe that he uses the same sort of technology that the Germa 66 use. But I don't think that it was the precursor of that technology. I believe that the Germa 66 are the precursors of this technology, and that Sora got that technology thanks to Vegapunk, or any other scientist that at the time that was better than Vegapunk. And how do I think that Germa came up with this technology? I believe that either they got the idea from the early CP members with the Rokushiki, or that this technology inspired someone to create a similar technique, and that came to be the Rokushiki, the Soru from Rokushiki. I'm leaning more towards the fact that the Germa 66 took the idea of Soru from the Rokushiki and managed to replicate it so anyone could use it, and not to have to go through the training of Rokushiki. But maybe it hasn't even anything to do with it. But I just thought it would be interesting to have a connection like that, because it's not all day that we see people floating in the sky in One Piece. The ones that were able to do that were the guys. It's not Zoro, it's Geppo. Zoro is the one where they go way fast from one place to the other. It's Geppo, the one that allows them to kick the air and stay afloat. Much like Sanji's Skywalk or Blue Walk that he used in water. So it would be interesting to see a connection like that. Maybe way back in time, the early stages of the CP fought against the early stages of Germa 66, and Germa 66 was at a disadvantage. And then they thought, those guys can float in the sky. Why don't we start floating in the sky as well? And then they created those shoes that allow them to do just so. And finally, we get to know just what the hell are the Van Smoke family. And apparently, they are a line of royals who long ago ruled all, and I repeat, all of North Blue with an iron fist. They were the royal family of North Blue. Apparently, they are not the rulers of North Blue anymore, but they are still a royal family with a seat on the Reverie. And that explains just why they have so much power. It has to change a bounty poster from wanted dead or alive to only alive. And I believe, at least I want to believe, that we have already seen Sanji's father a few chapters ago, where we see some of the world leaders going to the reverie. We've seen a guy with a clock drawn on his chin, with like the hands and the dots pointing the hours. I believe that that guy could be related to the Van Smoke family. If not Sanji's, Reiju's, and Yonji's father, at least some sort of representative, uncle, grandfather, or something like that. Because many people thought that his father would actually be the one called Reiju, but apparently no. So it would be interesting to be so. Imagine we get to the wedding and we see a guy with a clock in his chin, and we're like, man, I've seen that chin before. Oh yeah, that chapter with the world leaders. Oh my god, it makes all sense. I thought about this when I saw Reiju and saw her name, because I think so. Well, if it's not the father that's called Reiju, and they all seem to follow the hours theme, could that guy with the clock? I just thought about it. I think he appeared in chapter 8 to 1 or 2. It was a few chapters back. 8 to 3, I believe. I'm mostly positively sure that it was 8 to 3, a world a buzz, because it was the time when the news started spreading about the revolutionaries and the reverie started and all that. I believe it was when he appeared, chapter 823, if you guys want to check it out. And now we see the demonstration of Reiju's powers and an explanation as to why Luffy is poisoned. And here is the interesting part in the chapter. She manages, in a very sexy way, to suck all of the poison from Luffy's body into her own, and apparently she has no damage whatsoever. My guess is devil fruit. But we've seen at least two fruits so far that have a connection to poison, or that are able. One of them is literally the fruit of poison, which is which is a Doku Doku no Mi from Mazzelan, which is a paramecia. And then we have the Gasu Gasu no Mi from Chisa, which is a Logia that has the ability to control poisonous gases. So having another paramecia or another Logia related to poison would be redundant. In fact, it would be very, very complicated. Well, a paramecia would be easy, but it would either have to be a weaker version of the Doku Doku or a stronger version of the Doku Doku. My guess is Reiju as a Zoan Devil Fruit. She's a Zoan Devil Fruit user, most likely a bug that is somehow related to poison. If you see in page 14 when she's leaning to Luffy to kiss him, her mantle actually looks like a butterfly's wings. If you look at the details, it actually looks like a butterfly's wings. I don't want to say for sure that she has a butterfly devil fruit, because I don't know to what extent butterflies can withstand poison. I'm not a butterfly connoisseur. I don't know if moths have some sort of poison ability. I don't know. But I want to believe that she has some sort of insect zone devil fruit, which would be pretty cool, because in any other way, how would she be able to absorb a killer poison which kills just by being ingested? How would she be able to ingest it and not die? And she even says this poison is her favorite delicacy. So she's used to these kind of things. So that's why I believe she's a Zoan Devil Fruit user, and most likely a bug type Zoan. And yes, that's my guess. But my god, this lady did what Hancock has always tried to do. And if this reaches Hancock's ears, I believe Germa 66 will cease to exist in the very same spot. Because this lady just went on and smush the guy, and no cares taken. And Brook is jealous. Imagine if Sanji was there, you would kick Luffy and you're kissing my sister, you bastard. Something like that. Or maybe you would want a kiss as well. I don't know. I expect everything from that guy. Luffy wakes up as if nothing has ever happened, as if he was only asleep. Little does he know. And now Reiji explains just how have they been looking for Sanji, and they also stumble upon Duval, and that they've been looking for him ever since Sanji left them as a child. Maybe I really want to know how Sanji managed to leave his family just like that. When he was a little child, from North Blue to the East Blue, he crossed the red line. I still want to know how he did that, where he embarked from, where has he been ever since he left his family, and before meeting Zev. I just really want to know. But apparently it is not for this chapter, because after an argument between Yonji and Peckham's as to what he's doing with the Straw Hats, Reiju leaves back to the ship and they say something very interesting. If we make a scene here, our brother's marriage will get called off. We would both do well to tread carefully from here. Now, this is something that got me thinking. Could it be that they are actually also trying to stop Sanji's marriage? Most of us fans actually believe that the Germa 66 would be an evil army. As I believe some more people around the internet, I am actually kind of wavering on that. And I am starting to think about Germa 66 as a sort of a revolutionary army, but a more violent one indeed. Because it is stated that they ruled North Blue with an iron fist, so they weren't really that good people. But this sentence from Yonji actually makes me think that they don't want the marriage. Because as it seems, and as Peckham said in this chapter, Big Mom is after the Van Smoke's technology. So this appears to be a one-sided deal. Big Mom gets the technology, but what do the Van Smokes get? Okay, an alliance with Big Mom. But they are a royal family with a seat on the Reverie. What would a royal family with a seat on Reverie that ruled the entire North Blue actually gain from marrying a daughter of the Charlotte family? Thinking about it now, it actually makes no sense. But we will have to see in the chapters to come. And this chapter couldn't have ended in a better way. Down below in the sea, we see no one else than the first mate of the Sun Pirates, Aladdin himself. And he says to someone, I am positive Straw Hat Luffy is on board. What are your orders? Jinbei. Jinbei, the Knight of the Sea, the captain of the Sun Pirates, a former Shibukai, and the next member of the Straw Hat Pirates, I probably blew the mic right now, is going to appear. Finally, I hope he appears in the next chapter with Wada Atsumi and the poneglyph that's on top of his head. I just want to see Jinbei. I miss Jinbei. I love Jinbei. I love his stern personality, but still a caring personality. He's like he's sort of like a lot of other characters in the One Piece world, but I think he's special because he had a closer relation with Luffy. He went through a lot with Luffy in Impel Down and in Marineford. He was there when Luffy was desolated with his brother's death. And I don't think there's anyone worthier right now than Jinbei to join the Straw Hats. Either that or become the captain of the next division of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. But I would still prefer for him to be the 10th member of the Straw Hat crew. But anyway, I've been bragging on for a very long time. My god, 40 minutes of recording. You guys are gonna have a lot to watch in this video. Probably most of it is me blabbering on about nonsense stuff, but I'm gonna shut up right now. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Next week we have a fresh batch of chapters. Luckily, there's One Piece next week. There's no more pauses for now. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I will see you next Monday with the reviews of Fairy Tail and the Seven Deadly Sins. Have a nice weekend.